Hi guys, this is Bashak. We are here. I am a yoga therapist and teacher, ex-corporate warrior and an engineer. Welcome.
Hi, here we are. This is Kate, yoga therapist and teacher. We is a podcast about learning, awakening, and empowerment, where spirituality and wisdom guide you to live with clarity, purpose, and inner strength. Welcome.
Today we have an exciting topic and I feel it's very relevant to our day and age. Our topic is Steady in the Storm, a yogic path through fear.
Yes, and we chose this subject matter because we are actually at a time where I think everyone is feeling the pressure of what's going on in the world. There's a lot of things, outside forces that we are dealing with in a way, and we have been dealing. If you think about COVID, in the past few years, and then the political turmoil right now is really affecting people across the board. So we wanted to talk about how to navigate this time, how to navigate this world.
I mean, we need to acknowledge, right? There is a certain climate right now that is uncertainty, that's division, that's very rapid changes. And it is not a personal fear anymore. It's a very collective. And because of that contagious fear that we are feeling, right? And our nervous systems are really responding to that as this heightened state right now.
Now, I wanted to ask you, having grown up in Turkey, um, did you experience as a young person there this kind of intense political turmoil, there was there? Yes,
Yeah,
you're
that's a good
nodding. Yes.
point actually, because when I first came to the States, I was 23 years old. And the first thing that surprised me was no one was talking about politics. I grew up in an environment where every day, just like now in the US, there was a political storm.
Yeah.
Turkey went through a lot of political changes, a lot of divisions, right and left, and then um, you know, the army taking charge for a while. So I've been very used to having that politics being the primary conversation topic. And it wasn't so in America. And I think part of it is also economic development. When the economy is bad, everybody is looking for answers. And I think politics are very much tied to economic
Of
situation
course.
of the company. And now that we are seeing country, we are seeing that exact situation happening right now in the States. So this is something that I'm actually used to, but I've forgotten. So it's quite intense, I have to say.
Yes. So for you personally, what is your first thing that you do if you find yourself, or do you find yourself sort of spinning out of control when you
Well,
hear
I don't
something?
anymore because, of our practice, our yoga practice, because in yoga, in terms of the lens of yoga, fear, we call bhaya, is the movement of the mind. It's not the self. So once we start separating the fear from self, then we start asking the question of what fear is trying to protect or reveal.
Right.
So that we shift from how do I get rid of fear to what fear is asking me to see. So now, in that sense, it becomes personal. That
Yes.
collective fear, because it lands differently on everybody on different levels, right? So that disassociation with the idea or emotion of fear then really brings some wisdom, saying that how much am I consuming that creates and adds into the personal fear. And personal fear, let's be all honest with each other, is fear of death, right? That's the biggest
Yes.
fear that we can ever experience, or being
Yes.
hurt or in pain, yeah, sick, right? Death as being the ultimate. So, you know, when we are in that status of something is going to happen to me, and if we separate that from this is the fear, that personal fear, the biggest fear that I can ever experience, but then what is that telling about the state of being that I'm in, and what am I feeding into that fear? So
Right.
for me personally, the answer is always the same: moderation,
Yes.
moderation of consumption. How about you?
Well, I think I agree with you 100%. I do moderate my consumption of the news, and I have friends who don't. And
Yes.
I mean, they're very well informed, but man, I feel like they're up and down, and they go with that flow of the news, and it's just exhausting. So, um, I actually I try to stay informed, but I try to protect myself somewhat from it because I find it just so emotional. Um, but the other thing is there's a sense of lack of control because it is something bigger than you. So that's, I think, more what I struggle with, this idea of what kind of difference can I make? What should I be doing? And because I feel responsible as a citizen, to partake or at least make my voice heard in some way. So that's a lot of times what I struggle with.
I love that because this is again in yogic philosophy, we call this like grounding in dharma or right action. What is the action that is mine? That is natural to me. I mean, especially in chaotic times, right? The clarity is necessary, and that really comes from really pinpointing what is mine to do rather than constantly projecting your fear out and blaming and judging of the actions outside, then really turning the lens to yourself and saying, just like you said, how can I make a difference in this situation? Can I act from integrity rather than this panic and outrage, right?
Yes.
Can I
Yes.
let go of some of the controlling of the outcomes or others' behaviors? Or again, we all know that the only thing we can affect a change is ourselves.
Right.
So if I am adding into that fear-based thinking, then I'm affecting, influencing everyone around me as well. So how can I make a difference as a citizen is first checking in with myself and finding, you know, the right action within myself, compassion perhaps finding more of patience, right?
Yes.
Finding more of the calm within the storm. That can then maybe influence others as an example.
Absolutely. And I think everyone, as you said, reacts differently. You sort of have to know yourself to know what is the right action to take. And so for some people, it might be going out and marching on the street,
Totally.
For someone else, it might be just surrounding with like-minded people and having a discussion because then you feel like you are involved and you're thinking these things through. Um, Someone else might write something. I mean, there's just so many different ways you can react. And I think it's important if you are feeling this to have some outlet, whether it's creative or it's community. But you do need an outlet because like anything like this, if you don't, it's going to affect you.
Well, I think part of it is what you said was so good about moderation of consumption because um, we are energy beings and everything is energy of vibration. So we are constantly influenced by this constant media exposure, which is really, let's be honest with each other, grounded in creating sensationalism. So
Yes.
creating more of that, emotion that we can easily connect to, which is fear and anger, right? And anger is not really anger. Anger really hides a lot of other emotions. But those are the emotions that media is targeting to sell, papers or digital space. So how do we choose what to allow into our mental and emotional space, right? That really requires discipline to not to get so hooked in and go into the rabbit hole because that's what happens when you're in this consumption, right? You start
Yeah.
reading something that opens something else, something else, something else. Next thing you know, an hour passed and you have done nothing but reading these conspiracy theories.
Yes. Yes.
So I think, yeah, that is really important. And then I think also there's the role of the body. How do we regulate ourselves before reacting to everything? Because fear is not just in the mind, it
Mind.
also
Yeah.
lives in the body.
Yes. It's a very good point because you can get all in the mind about this, but we need to deal with it with the body.
So
Yes.
that's why we have practices in yoga. That's why we start breathing slower, practicing slow breathing to bring the mind from this past and future based agony to the present moment,
Right.
right this moment.
Yes.
And
And
then,
always. for somebody, can I just interrupt, for somebody who doesn't necessarily do yogic practices, but maybe going for a run, going to the gym, any of these physical things, maybe not as holistic as yoga is, but it brings you into the present moment, right?
Yes, as long as it's the mindful movement.
Yes.
It's not really an escape from reality, but it is really moving with mindfulness, with breath, and also spending time in nature,
Yes. That's a big thing. That's a big thing.
right?
And you see, some people might say that that's an escapist solution. But
But
I
that's connection,
disagree.
really opposite. Yeah, it's the
Right.
connection.
It's connection, right? Isn't that interesting? People would say you're escaping from it, you're avoiding it, but you're not. You're really saying we are all one. We are out in earth. We are all one. How can we move forward with that understanding and with that compassion that you pointed out? Even for certain political leaders that you may not agree with, but that's the hardest thing, right? Having compassion for people that. What do you
But
think
you don't
about that?
necessarily maybe agree with or have compassion with, but again, what can you change?
Yeah.
You can create inner safety when the outer world feels unstable.
Yes.
That's something that you can actually do, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So this is why we have these practices.
Yeah.
And then, the idea of cultivating courage, abaya, right, in yoga, it's not absence of fear. Fear will be there, but can I move consciously with it? Because in patience and in sitting with it, with small acts of maybe bravery during your day to day life, maybe small acts of trust that something deeper can reveal,
Mhm.
awareness, really,
Yeah.
again, asking the right questions. What is within me are afraid, is
Right.
afraid?
Right. And maybe it is definitely fear, but it doesn't sometimes feel like fear. It just feels sometimes when it's a political thing that it's not fear, but it's you're not agreeing with how you envision our collective future. You
Yeah.
know, so and so that's not necessarily fear, or is it? Maybe it is because it's fear of a future that you don't think should be,
But
perhaps.
again, future, what is future? Future
Yeah,
is the present moment in some other time.
right.
So there is only one present moment. We are
Yes,
not living future now, we are living this moment now. So
right.
what we can influence is this moment. And what we can influence is how am I feeling, doing, acting, thinking in this moment? Me, myself, I can influence.
Right.
Then, not to like force anybody else's opinions, but just live your truth and
Yeah.
encourage others to live their truth too. Because I feel a lot of people get attached to these alternate truths or personalities or, ideas because it's easier than really sitting with your own.
Yes. So that is the big thing. I mean, how I none of us think for very few of us think for ourselves these
Yeah.
days, you know?
But that's why the community that we put ourselves in is really important because we are not meant to navigate fear alone, right?
Right.
The shared presence and the conversations and support that we receive from outside of us, I think one can ask themselves, the community that I'm sharing, are they putting more fuel into these negative emotions,
Right.
fear, abandonment, anger, frustration, or are they actually giving me more solutions or positivity or upliftment or ideas to take
Yes.
me out of that gunk? I
Right.
think if you are associating with people that are, creating more fear in your mind, that might not be the right association.
Yeah. But what about, I'm sort of being devil's advocate here. What happens, as I do know someone who works in the news, that is their job, their life. And so that's very hard to manage,
Yeah,
right?
that
Because,
is similar
yeah,
to being a doctor,
true,
operating on people.
true,
And
true.
then
So
if
the
they were to,
separation,
yeah, if they were to like be really attached to people's condition and results of their, surgeries or actions, then they would have no peace in the mind. They can't live a life on their own, right? There has
Yeah.
to be a little separation
Yeah.
because there's a difference between the work I do and who I am.
Yes.
I think
Yes.
that's the maybe cause of a lot of the problems because people or most of us identify ourselves with, I am a newscaster, I am a yoga teacher, I am a, whatever,
I'm a
whatever, whatever.
Democrat. I'm a Republican.
Exactly.
Yes.
Right. So we do
Yeah.
associate too much with these things that becomes our personality, but it is not,
I know. I know.
right? It's an action. It's not who we are. It's a doing, not being.
Right. Right.
So there has to be a discernment. I mean, you can't be just one thing and it's like almost dogmatic. It's almost like, those hardcore religious people that there is no really true knowledge, true research, true practice, but just like, okay, I'm going to follow this because this feels safe to me.
Right. No questions asked, no digging deeper. You just do it because it's easy, because it's
Yeah.
safe and it's fed to you.
I mean,
Yeah.
in yoga, we always hear this, you know, trust and surrender, but be informed first.
Yes.
Read about the text first. Study those texts with people who can give you different perspectives. And then you come to your own conclusion. Even in Bhagavad Gita, the most revered text of yoga, the conversation between these two friends, a teacher and a student, and the teacher at the end of the day says, or God, however you're reading this book, says, here's all the information I give it to you. Now it's up to you. Even
Yes.
then, there
Yes.
is this free will that
Right.
asks you to think for yourself.
Yes. I love it.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's so inspiring.
Bhagavad Gita is always inspiring, right?
I
If you
know.
guys haven't read Bhagavad Gita, it's not an easy book to read on your own because there's a lot of deeper meanings of sutras. You want to read with a teacher who is coming from a specific lineage who can represent their teachers and their teachers. So it's not just one person's opinion. So I highly, highly suggest it.
Yeah, it's great.
Going back to the community
Yeah.
aspect also.
Mhm.
I mean, surrounding yourself with community or like-minded people we call Sangha. We talked about that a lot in our podcast.
Yes, yes, yes.
I'm going to do a plug here. Can
Oh,
I?
good. What? Come on.
I'm going to plug that Kate and I are doing a women's retreat day in May. The time, the place will be TBD. So I really highly, highly suggest that we all gather together and talk about some of these things. And B, I have a retreat coming up in Turkey, first week of August. Again, like-minded people coming together, practicing meditation, yoga, breath work, different things, dream work. So highly, highly suggest that you find your community and really connect, especially in these turbulent times.
That's great. And we should put a link to your website, Bashak, so people know about your Turkey retreat. That'd be
Will do
great.
that. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you.
So what about people do you know people that sort of do go down the rabbit hole, and have you ever tried to pull them back out? Like they just,
Yeah.
yes, yes,
Yes, like it's,
yes,
there are, and it's amazing that everybody that I speak to who are really in that rabbit hole are the ones who watches the media too much,
yeah,
reading the news too much.
yeah,
So the first thing that I always suggest, not to disconnect, just like you said, be informed, but put it in moderation. Don't make your whole day, throughout your day, you are reading it. Read it in the morning, get informed, and then go about your day.
right,
Because again, you are not there making those changes, but you can make small changes within your life and create an intention of releasing some of that fear and connecting to people in your life that you know that are positive influence for you, or go take an action just like you said. Go, be on a march, go, write about it, write your feelings on a paper, share it.
yeah.
So those are all good things.
I do
Seek
think
for help.
because I think that some people feel guilty too, that here we are, in our relatively safe, generally, well, used to be safe United States, and all this turmoil's here too now around the corner. So, but if you're not directly affected by certain things, physically in your face, one can feel guilty. What do you feel
But
about?
where is that guilt coming from? How am I
Yeah,
looking outside? How
yeah,
are people are judging me? That's the guilt. You
yeah,
don't live for people. People
yeah,
don't care.
yeah. No, they
So
don't.
you need to really and you know all that negative thoughts, as we know, creates actually within your nervous system
Mhm.
illness at the end,
Yes,
physical
yes,
problems, emotional problems, stress.
yeah,
Organs can shut down from stress. We
yeah.
all know about that. So it's about making the right choice for you, an elevated choice for you, right? You know, not
Mhm.
to just in sake of fitting in or looking good,
Yes,
not to give up your own health.
yes, yeah. Very
Because fear
important.
will come and go, right? Your essence remains steady.
Yes.
So the invitation is to really deepen your practice of connecting to yourself. Can I meet this moment with awareness instead of reactivity? You know, that's to me.
That's, yeah, I think you're absolutely 100% right. And maybe in just terms of practice for people who meditate, it's that morning sitting, even if it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, just sitting and meditating. But maybe someone else has, they go for a walk in nature in the morning. Or can you find, if you don't have something like that, I highly recommend that you find something that it becomes like brushing your teeth. We always often talk about meditation, be like, it's just another thing that you do, a habit, a good habit that you form.
And this
So,
nature, I want to say also, you know, when you go outside, even if you're in a city that there's not much nature around you, look up to the sky. You
yes,
know, when you look up the sky, your brain gets lighter. And you
yes,
really get the idea of this expansive universe that we live in, that we are in such a little blip of that universe. And everything that is happening is just temporary. It comes and goes. All this, I mean, for centuries and centuries, if you look at the history of the world, in every era,
mhm,
something happened,
yes,
something major things happen, and then also major happy things happen,
yes,
improvements happen too. So this is ebbs and flows, you know, it's just not
mhm,
always, it's just a moment in time. So and we know whatever you focus upon, that would be your reality. If you focus upon all the negative stuff in the world, that is sure to be around the corner, it's easy to find.
yes.
That's your experience. If you focus on good things, there are good things happening in the world too.
Absolutely. And I love that you brought up the sky because actually just yesterday I had got sucked into some watching some television of not some, negative things. And I just had to go outside and I did exactly that. I looked up and it was one of those days where I'm actually down in Florida right now. It was one of those days where the beautiful blue sky, but a lot of clouds. And there was suddenly this dance of the clouds. And I was like, oh, this is so, because you know how they shape and they move. And I was like, oh my God, this is so much better than TV. It
Absolutely.
was just gorgeous. It's so funny that you mentioned that, but it was just, I was like, and as you said, it just changed something chemically in my mind immediately. It was beautiful. So if you can find, or even, leaves rustling in the tree in New York, I always think even just a single tree that is growing or trying to grow in New York, you see that and you see the hope. I feel like nature gives you hope.
Sure, yeah, because nature is always changing too, right?
Yes.
There's no stability. We are looking for stability, but if you look at a tree, for example, right? Tree is always going up towards the light, but then it's always moving with the wind.
Yes.
So there's always this, you know, little fluctuation, even in nature.
Mhm.
Forget about the seasons and changes and everything else. So these changes are inevitable.
Right.
We choose what we want to connect to, just as momentary changes or just life as a whole, and what is my role in it, and how can I find steadiness, clarity, how
Right.
can I get rooted,
Yes.
and also feel free. You know, these are all part of yoga practice.
They are. And so here I'm going to throw out another question. So let's say you live with a partner or you live with a roommate, and they are very sucked into it and they get very angry over something. That can be hard to manage someone else's, particularly if you're very close to them. What advice
Absolutely.
would you say?
I
What?
think to
Mhm.
me the key is not to engage in a way that is adding into the fire again.
Yes.
Because I think if you, again, you can influence only yourself, not your partner. You can't tell them not to do something, as we know very well. That doesn't
Very
go
well.
well. So, but if we can find our center and not respond to the frustration and anger, that will die down because there's nothing to bounce back on, right? Even if like in regular arguments, that's what happens between partners, right? If one cannot put the feeling, the other one has to slowly just retreat. So let them express what they need to express because they need to in that moment to let go. But then don't give more space to counteract or trying to show them the way. And none of that. Just
Right.
go outside and take a walk in the nature.
Yeah. Maybe they'll come too and relax.
Maybe they'll come too. That will be great. Invitation is always a great thing, not force, but invitation.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
I
it's
think
just
we
what?
have 5 more minutes.
Okay.
So I think we talked about some practical tools, but to me, really most important thing is community and to connect and reach out for help. If you're
Yes.
feeling fear, if you're feeling frustration, anger, whatever that may be, try to reach out to someone that is the right person that will guide you out of maybe that place to
Yes.
something more lighter, more hopeful.
Yes, because I do think people are feeling overwhelmed. That's the word I hear a lot, is the being overwhelmed.
And that's
So,
a good point, Kate,
yeah,
you mentioned. That overwhelmed feeling is also what are you putting up on yourself when you're feeling not up to it, right? We need to regulate our own self. That sometimes means that if I have this like extreme emotions running in my mind, I'm not going to be really effective in doing any tasks that I'm supposed to be doing. And that's going to create even more anxiety in me. So for today, can I kind of narrow down and really focus on what needs to get done rather than putting myself into all these situations that is not healthy?
right. Right. And that just speaks to, again, energy control, right? Rather than dissipating your energy all places, like bringing it home, bringing it down, and
Yeah, we
regulating
call
that
this
energy.
brahmacharya in yoga,
Yes.
just rightful, meaningful use of energy.
Energy. Yep. Yep. Okay. So
Okay,
I know what to do now.
let's all try. We all can try. It's all like this is part of our practice,
It
right?
is.
We remember, we forget, we remind ourselves again. We find people to remind ourselves again what
Right.
is true and what is eternal and what is not temporary.
Exactly. And you will know, and I think people have to trust their intuition. You can feel, if this group is good for you or if this person is not so good for you, and trust that intuition. We are not taught anymore to really follow,
Trust.
and yep, and we have to trust our intuition because you do know best. You do know best
Yes.
about yourself. Yeah.
Yes,
Yep.
yes. You do know best if you are in a state of regulative mind and body, and not in the state of full conditioned
Yeah.
place. Yeah, yeah. Very good. Thank you so much
Thank you, my
for this
friend.
talk. It was
Yes, this
lovely.
helped me a lot. I thank you so
Good.
much. And I hope it helped our listeners. And if anyone has any other ideas or thoughts, please throw
Or
it into the chat
questions,
or questions. Yes.
please send it to us. We look forward to hearing from you always.
Yes.
Until
All
next
right.
time, let's dance out.
Let's dance out. I always
Make
forget.
it
We're going to
lighter.
dance out. Bye, Bashak. Thank you.
Bye, Kate. Thank you.